Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat.
Resolves.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Hello everyone, my name is DJ, and wow, do we have some new cool previews from Ikoria to look at. There are going to be a ton of cool previews on the way, including some from me. But for now, let's take a look at one that is particularly exciting, and that is Godzilla. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, also known as Zilortha Strength Incarnate, is 3 red-green for a 7/3 legendary creature dinosaur. Godzilla has trample, and lethal damage dealt to creatures you control is determined by their power rather than their toughness. This is a Power Matters general, and there are a ton of different cards that synergize with high power creatures. And so we're going to take a look at those to find out how Godzilla could fit particularly well in existing Magic archetypes. One thing that draws me to Godzilla is just the flavor. It is going to be so cool to have that card in your command zone. And so the other Godzilla from the set, Godzilla Primeval Champion, is going to slot into this deck perfectly. I don't know if I'm going to be getting up to 9 mana to cast this 11/11, so cool. But one thing that's great is that this could always just cycle away and give a relevant creature trample. And in a Power Matters deck, this actually slots in relatively well. Also remember that these are dinosaurs, so they can go into other decks, like a Gisaf deck. Dinosaurs are a much more supported archetype right now than ever before, and so I'm really excited to see where the tribe goes. Let's keep going into what strategies could work in this deck, because Power Matters is an established theme, like I mentioned, and so what makes Godzilla better than other Power Matters commanders? And so what synergies can we look forward to in this deck? But let's start off by looking at the power. So Godzilla, by its nature, makes creatures that have high power enter into combat a little bit easier. So Godzilla tangles as a 7/7, not a 7/3. That's pretty good when it comes to creature combat. So anything that boosts the power is going to be able to get through a little bit easier. Let's take a look at all the power-based synergies we have in this deck. Ogre Battle Driver is going to pump our creatures +2/+0 and give them haste. This is particularly important because this is a turn your creature sideways deck. We want to be attacking quickly and getting that pumped damage through. Domri, Anarch of Bolas, is an anthem that comes down and starts adding mana to your mana pool, fighting against those counter-based blue decks that we don't like very much. And then finally, its removal. It's going to be able to fight something, and we're going to have the biggest creature on the battlefield for sure. And Ronus the Indomitable works really well with power. It's going to be able to attack and block because we're going to have another big creature on the battlefield, and this is a mana sink in the late game where we can start pumping things and giving it trample. I'm going to keep mentioning trample over and over again because it's an important keyword. Finally, we can pump power and really make our creatures difficult to block. Boon Satyr. It's a 4/2 with flash, so it can come down and really attack well on its own, but if you bestow this on another big creature like your commander, suddenly it's swinging in for 11. That is a magical number, which means that you can commander damage people out. Rancor is super efficient, pumping something +2/0, or +2/2 in this deck. Trample and Recursion, really solid. And finally, we have different forms of equipment. I put Luxstone Warhammer here because +3/0 is a huge boost. High power can sometimes make it easier to cast our spells. Sylvala will generate a ton of mana because we're going to have big powered creatures on the battlefield. Galta will oftentimes be cast for just green, being a huge 12/12 beater on his own. And the Great Henge also can be often cast for just green, giving us card draw and mana ramp and pumping our creatures a little bit more. Wow, Great Henge is a good card. Imagine that. Finally, we have tons of card draw in this combination. Rishkar's Expertise, Garruk Primal Hunter, Return of the Wildspeaker, and Greater Good. All of these will draw cards based on creature's power, and when we have 7 power easily cast in our command zone, we're going to be able to refill our hand very easily. In this deck, we're able to leverage some of the cards in Magic that we weren't able to leverage before. Magic sometimes puts really powerful creatures with high power and low toughness. And the reason why they do that is because they'll generate a really strong effect, but they're like, hey, you can't do that every single turn because someone's going to block it and your creature's going to die. So it's more of going to be a one-off effect. And so a card like Combat Celebrant gives you an extra combat phase, but they're like, it's probably only going to give you one because it's got one toughness. Something's going to kill it. Oh, but if it's a 4/4, it becomes much harder to tangle with. Same thing goes with Terra Ravager. It's only got 4 toughness, but it can swing in for tons of damage. The logic is that, it's only going to be able to swing in once someone is able to block it effectively. But if this is swinging in and someone has, 6 or 7 lands, 10 lands, it just keeps crunching in for damage. And then Rubble Belt Rioters. Again, same logic. Only 4 toughness. Someone's going to eventually take it out. This thing is going to swing in, and if you have a Galt on the battlefield or your commander on the battlefield, it's just going to smash. A few other cards that have high power, lower toughness that are kind of designed to die are Tree Shaker Chimera, Nessian Boar, and Siege Behemoth. Tree Shaker Chimera and Nessian Boar require your opponents to block them, and they're going to be monstrous creatures, wiping out your opponent's board, but more importantly, freeing up attacks for other creatures. Siege Behemoth is also going to let you get huge amounts of damage through because you can pretend like your creatures aren't blocked. And it's going to be hard to take out Siege Behemoth because of the hexproof and that it's a 7/7 swinging in. Now let's make our damage even bigger by doubling up the power. God Eternal Ronus doubles up the power for your whole team. Xenagos, God of Revels, can target a specific creature, double up its power, give it haste. Amazing. And Overwhelming Stampede can just pump your entire team and start taking out players. Next, we have doubling up damage in a different way. Let's look at Double Strike. Avatar of Slaughter is going to give everything double strike, including your opponent's creatures, but we're going to have bigger creatures trampling over, taking people out. Embercleave is so much fun in this deck because it flashes in out of nowhere and lets you trample in for tons of damage. And then Berserker's Onslaught, giving all of your attacking creatures double strike because we're not blocking in this deck. And then one other thing that doubles up damage are cards like Fiendish Duo, 6 CMC for a 5/5 first strike. If a source would deal damage to an opponent, it deals double that damage to that player instead. This will let you double damage your double strike and your double powered creatures. That's a lot of doubling. You're just going to kill someone out of nowhere. It's so good. Okay, so we've described a deck where we have tons of high power creatures and high power synergies. We double damage, we turn things sideways, we trample over, we kill people. But we have other decks in the format that do that very well. Xenagos, God of Revels, actually increases the power of your creatures. Godzilla doesn't actually kill anyone faster, it just makes creature combat a little bit more favorable for you. But the thing is that we don't actually rely on creature combat that much. I mean, usually in these colors, we're going to be getting big and winning creature combat already. So is Godzilla really giving us something that we need? A lot of people are going to say that Xenagos is a little bit better, but I think Godzilla might edge him out in a few different ways. Number one is obviously flavor. Godzilla, King of Monsters, is way better than Xenagos, a god of partying. It's a made-up god anyways. Godzilla is real. I think one key distinction is that Godzilla can actually commander damage someone to death easily if they're not paying attention, especially with all the trample, all the doubling damage, the double striking, stuff like that. Xenagos oftentimes isn't really a creature. It just kind of comes down and pumps something else. Obviously, these two cards work really well in tandem. One thing that a lot of people might end up doing, though, is pulling out Xenagos in the command zone if you're at a little bit of a higher power level table, But maybe if you're playing with a different playgroup, some beginners, you switch it up and you throw Godzilla in the command zone and you're like, yeah, I'm going to make my deck more flavorful right now instead of more powerful. I think the other synergy that Godzilla has is allowing you to one-sided board wipe so that your damage gets through easier. The way that we do that is with damage-based board wipes. Cards like Hour of Devastation. Well, they're not going to wipe away most of your board because they're going to have such high power and thus high toughness. You're going to wipe away everything your opponents have and leave you with free attacks. Same thing goes with Chandra's Ignition. You can choose the right creature to have it deal tons of damage, and then suddenly you're swinging through and taking people out. It's difficult to do that with Xenagos. And even cards like Wildfire. You play Wildfire on 6 after you land a Godzilla, and suddenly everyone's land base is destroyed, and you have a 7/7 trample out that's just smashing in, and in 3 hits you're commander damaging people to death. Yeah, that seems like a really good synergy, and so combining this with board wipes might make this deck a little bit more resilient, where you can really handle creature combat and really punish your opponents by smashing in and commander damaging people out and not being reliant on multiple creatures. Overall, I think that Godzilla is super fun, the art is amazing, flavorful, and smashy gruel. I love it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to tune in for my preview card and all the exciting Ikoria stuff coming up out of this channel. I want to thank Cool Stuff Inc. because they're amazing, my patrons, and thank you for watching this video. I can't wait to share more things with you. All right, everyone, see you really soon. Bye-bye.